DPAS-2 is a tool that we use as teachers to grade ourselves on our effectiveness in the classroom. For example, planning and preparation, it's graded on a 4-point scale. Well, I guess that's not points, 4-column scale. In ineffective, needs improvement, effective, highly effective. For planning and preparation, I consider this to be your effectiveness in how you're able to prepare your lessons and efficiently teach them, essentially. I mean, a good lesson is one that's well prepared. You can't walk into a classroom and not have any of your stuff together and expect to have a good lesson plan. So if you were to fall into the highly effective category, you're setting your goals and meeting them. You're designing coherent instruction, which is important because if it's all over the place and you're not even understanding it, there's no way a student who's never heard this information before will understand it as well. You have to demonstrate your knowledge of content and pedagogy, I know that's how it's pronounced. And that is basically just demonstrating that you know what you're talking about. Because again, if you don't even know what you're talking about, there's no way that you can teach that. If I were to teach a lesson on the Italian Renaissance, but I knew nothing about it, how am I ever going to effectively communicate that to my students who are trying to absorb this information and apply it towards their own grade? You have to demonstrate a knowledge of the students. So, for example, a teacher demonstrates thorough knowledge of students' background, skills, interests, and knowledge to plan individual student learning. That is the most highly effective way of teaching when you're demonstrating your knowledge of students, because you want to form those connections. And to form those connections, you need to know them as people. And you get to know them as people, and then you know how they learn. For example, since I'm a body kinesthetic learner, I need to put my hands on something. To teach to me, I need something interactive. So I know if you're an audio learner, then maybe I need to put in some audio clips like I did in my Smartboard lesson with the Gettysburg Address, because that would cement that knowledge. And then designing student assessments. To be highly effective in this is a teacher's plan for student assessment is fully aligned with the instructional outcomes and uses clear criteria and standards to show evidence of student contribution towards their development. So, effective assessing, meaning that your tests make sense. Why are you doing them? Why do you test other than to check up on your students to see where they are, what you need to work on? Are you really effectively teaching this material if at the end of the day they can't take a test on it and still know it? Then for a classroom environment, this is the one that's a little bit harder, just because there's a lot of wild cards with kids, especially in middle schools, to manage your classroom procedures. And I think procedure in classrooms is one of the ways to keep your classroom under control, just because if they know what they're supposed to do, if they know that at the beginning of class they're supposed to check in, sit down, work on, a 2-minute introductory assignment that they have to do every single class. This keeps them from going to their friend's desk, from throwing paper at some kid because they're a dumb middle schooler and that's what kind of stuff they do, or stapling some kid, or managing your student behavior. Again, that's something that procedure would go into as well. It's just really helping to manage some behavior, because everyone's been a kid. We all know that you have to learn how to act right, and procedure is what would play into that. But you're also creating an environment of support and learning, like right here, which is making your students feel comfortable asking you questions, making an environment where they feel like they're supported and it's okay if you don't quite understand it just yet. Like, that's why I'm here. I'm here to help you understand this. And organizing your physical space. I think about this a lot. I love to decorate. And I know that this is not just decorating, But teachers' classroom is safe. Students contribute to ensuring that physical environments support the learning of all students. I've seen this done, and this is something I intend to do, where I'll have a social studies classroom. An important lesson in social studies is geography, so we need to know latitude and longitude. I've seen teachers put a vertical line up the side of their door that says longitude, and then a horizontal line above the door that says latitude. And that's just a visual representation of what those two mean. And it's stuff like that. Like, how does the classroom play into the learning? Can they look up and see pictures of Martin Luther King and Alice Paul and then understand that, like, these are important people that we're going to be learning about? Instruction. Engaging students in learning. This again goes into just making learning enabling learning that enables learners. So helping your students become more interactive in your lessons by building lessons that are geared towards individual learners. You're demonstrating your flexibility and responsiveness. Also, when you're doing that, I mean, it's not easy to teach to 18 different learners, but as teachers, you have to be flexible enough to be able to do that because every kid is different and has different needs. Communicating clearly and accurately. This is so important just because you can't expect them to know what you want to do just by reading your mind. So you need to communicate deadlines. This is your homework for tonight. You have a project due in 2 weeks. I need this, this, and this done by the end of this week in preparation for that project due date. And you need to accurately communicate with them what's expected of them. Using questioning and discussion techniques, students formulate many of the high-level questions and assume responsibility for participation of all students in discussion. Teachers employ cognitive coaching and questioning. So this is really going into your group activities where everyone's participating. Are the questions on topic? Are we learning from it? Have we gone off far left and we're not even talking about the Civil War anymore? Can all of this be brought back in for some deeper learning? Using assessment in instruction for highly effective assessment used in sophisticated manner in instruction through student involvement in establishing the assessment criteria, self-assessment by students and monitoring progress of both student and teachers, and high-quality feedback to students from a variety of sources. I think this is a very roundabout way of saying that you need to apply assessment into what you're teaching just to check up on them. I think you need to give them feedback because everyone likes to hear, you've done a good job, or maybe you could work on this, but you did great in this area as well. Professional responsibilities. So this is communicating with the family, recording data. Super important because, you need to document everything that happens with the student. You need to communicate with their teachers. If they're not acting right, if they're doing great, like the teacher needs to communicate that to the parents. Growing and developing professionally. Are you growing yourself as a teacher every year that you teach? Are you becoming different? Are you becoming more involved and are you still learning yourself? And reflecting on professional practice. This is just checking up on yourself. Are you really being the teacher that you want to be?